Regular council meeting Monday, November 24th, 2025. Councillor Popoff, Councillor Ray. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion? Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of Monday, November 3rd, 2025? Councillor Stetsi, Councillor Bassett. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. I now recess the regular council meeting to enter into public hearing for tonight. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 465 of the Local Government Act to consider the following bylaws. Number 1, City of Cranbrook Official Community Plan, our Path to Cranbrook Bylaw Amendment, number 4218, 2025, and City of Cranbrook Zoning Amendment, Bylaw number 4219, 2025. This public hearing is being held in person and electronically with residents and interested parties being given the opportunity to express their views. This meeting is being broadcast live on the city's website, and there's a link on the homepage that will take you directly to the meeting. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaws will be given an opportunity to be heard. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. However, it is important that all who speak at this meeting restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaws, and it is my responsibility as chair of this meeting to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Members of council may ask questions if you follow on your submission. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public and not debate the merits of the proposed bylaws with individual citizens. Those of you who wish to speak concerning the proposed bylaws should, at the appropriate time, begin by clearly stating your name and address and then give the full benefits of your view. You will be given 5 minutes for your submission. I will call for submissions 3 times for each bylaw. Once the public hearing is closed, members of council cannot take any further input regarding the proposed bylaws and will then deal with the bylaws during the regular meeting of council held after the public hearing. The first bylaw for consideration tonight is the proposed City of Cranbrook Official Community Plan, our Path to Cranbrook Bylaw Amendment number 4218, 2025. The bylaw proposes to amend Schedule 1 land use map by changing the land use designation for a portion of Lot 1, District Lot 4, Kootenay District Plan 12723 from medium density residential to high density residential. Boy, I struggled on that one. The purpose of the proposed OCP amendment will support an application to develop a 3-story low-rise apartment consisting of 24 2-bedroom units. The subject property is located at 114 17A Avenue South. I will call on any members of the public who are in the chamber tonight to speak first. If you wish to provide comments, please come up to the podium, provide your name and address before giving us your comments. Nobody in the chamber wishes to speak? I will. If you're on the phone line waiting to speak, when it's your turn to speak, you will be allowed to unmute yourself by pressing *6, and you'll have the opportunity to provide us with your views.
So, Mayor Price, we have no registered speakers and we have no speakers coming in online.
Thank you. I will now call for first time for submissions. I will now call for a second time for submissions. And finally, I'll call a third and final time for submissions. Hearing no further comments, I now close the public hearing for the proposed City of Cranbrook Official Community Plan, our Path to Cranbrook Bylaw number Amendment number 4218, 2025. Thank you. The next bylaw for consideration tonight is the proposed City of Cranbrook Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4219, 2025. The bylaw proposes to amend section 7.28.4 CD4 Baker Park Development Zone by changing the zoning designation for Lot 1, District Lot 4, Kootenay District Plan 12723 from R5 medium density to R6 high density for property located at 114 17A Avenue South. The purpose of the proposed zoning amendment will support an application to develop a 3-story low-rise apartment consisting of 24 two-bedroom units. I will now call a first time for submissions. I will now call a second time for submissions. I will now call a third and final time for submissions. Hearing no comments, and I'll close the public hearing for the proposed City of Cranbrook Zone Amendment Bylaw number 4219-2025. Thank you. I will now reconvene the regular meeting, and we'll move into bylaws. The first bylaw for consideration tonight is from the Finance Department regarding City of Cranbrook fees and charges bylaw number 4216-2025, which is back before council tonight for adoption. Can I get a motion that council adopt City of Cranbrook fees and charges bylaw number 4216-2025? Mover, please. Councillor Ray, Councillor Bassett. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next bylaws for consideration tonight are from Engineering Development Services Department regarding official community plan amendment bylaw number 4218-2025 and zoning amendment bylaw number 4219-2025, which are both back before council tonight for third reading and adoption. Can I get a motion that council can I get a motion that subject to council's consideration of public input received up to and including the public hearing of November 24th, 2025, council give third reading to City of Cranbrook official community plan, Our Path to Cranbrook 2042 amendment bylaw number 4218-2025. Mover, please. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Graham. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. And can I get a motion that subject to council's consideration of public input received up to and including the public hearing of November 24th, 2025, council give third reading to zoning bylaw amendment number 4219-2025. Councillor Popoff, Councillor Ray. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion that council adopt City of Cranbrook official community plan, Our Path to Cranbrook 2042 amendment bylaw number 4218-2025? Councillor Graham, Councillor Ray. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. And finally, can I get a motion that council adopt zoning bylaw amendment number 4219-2025? Mover, please. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Bassett. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. The next bylaw for consideration tonight is from Engineering Development Service Department regarding streets, traffic, and parking amendment bylaw number 4222-2025, which is back before council tonight for adoption. Can I get a motion that council adopt the streets, traffic, and parking amendment bylaw number 4222-2025? Councillor Ray, Councillor Graham. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. The final bylaw for consideration tonight is also from the Engineering Development Services Department regarding our official community plan amendment bylaw number 4228-2025, which is before council tonight for first and second reading. Can I have staff provide a brief overview of this report, please?
Connor, can you go ahead?
Yes, can you guys hear me okay?
We sure can.
Awesome. Okay, I was having a little bit of internet trouble there, but so this is before council. It's coming back from back in January. If you remember, we did the interim housing needs report regarding the new legislation that came through with housing in 2023. So now that we're past that part, municipalities are required to update their official community plans, and the deadline for that is December 31st, 2025. So we're inputting the interim housing needs report and the findings that came from that, using the provincial tools, assessment resource tools that guided the process. So the new numbers are just simply being put into the official community plan from this bylaw. These numbers were to address 6 different things. It was supply of units based on reducing extreme core housing needs, units to reduce homelessness, units to address suppressed household formation, units needed to meet household growth for the next 5 and for the next 20 years, and for a 3% vacancy rate, and also to meet our local demand. So the numbers haven't changed too much from our previous housing report, but this was based on a new growth rate. So the new total for over 5 years, what we need is 1,262 units, which I believe it was by 2031, it was around 1,400 before. So 1,262 is the new 5-year need, and 3,650 household units needed over the next 20 years, which is just a few hundred higher than our growth rate that we used. So this was using the provincial calculator. And then on top of this, since we had to make the OCP amendment anyways, we put in a couple of housekeeping amendments. And those, just briefly, those had to do with multi-unit residential development permits, as well as wildfire hazard area development permits and downtown commercial development permits. And these are all exemptions based on other exemptions that we have, so that if there's construction or alteration of single detached housing or internal renovations, that we aren't looking at every single development permit. So it's to reduce the amount of administrative time that's spent on that. And that's everything that's coming through with this amendment. So thanks. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Connor. Great report. Can I get a motion that council give first reading to City of Cranbrook official committee plan Our Path to Cranbrook 2042 amendment bylaw number 4228 2025. Mover, please, Councillor Blissett, Councillor Stetsky. Discussion. Councillor Popoff.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So Connor, the 20-year need of 3,650 currently, do we have sufficient land within the city limits that's already subdivided and zoned low, medium, high density, even with the provincial rule for 4 units on a lot, to achieve 3,650 homes in the next 20 years? Or do we need more land to be subdivided to create this extra housing needs?
Councillor Popoff, through the mayor, we have sufficient land base to meet the needs, especially since there has been the drastic increase in lots that are greater than 280 square meters. It just increases the amount of housing we can have, plus the development areas that we have just located all around the city. We do have sufficient land base.
So thank you. So this is land based, but is a lot of that land still unserviced, unzoned, or zoned in a lower level that we have to, that future councils and staff have to do a lot of work on to achieve the 3650?
No, we have enough residentially zoned land. As for how much of it is serviced, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but from my understanding, we have enough residentially zoned land to meet the needs that are required here. And that's why we are just bringing forward the official community plan. We don't have to change anything in the zoning bylaw because we are meeting our residential needs as it sits right now.
Thank you. That's good news.
Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And so are there reporting out requirements that go along with this? Like, do we have to let the province know on an annual basis what we're accomplishing? And are there any consequences of not meeting them? Or is this just one of those nice to have on the books regulations?
Yes, so I believe every 5 years, so in 2028, we'll have to bring forward our new housing needs report, as this one's just interim for right now, but we have to bring forward a full housing needs report by December 31st, 2028. And then every 5 years after that, we have to reassess our housing needs. As for the consequences, I'm not actually 100% sure what would happen if we don't do what we're required to do, but I think it's best that we do stick to their timelines.
Okay. Further, council? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion that council gives second reading the City of Cranbrook Official Community Plan, Our Path to Cranbrook 2042 Amendment by Law Number 4228, 2025, and submit to a public hearing to be scheduled on for 6 p.m. on December 8th, 2025. Mover, Councilor Ray, Councilor Popoff. Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Now moving into new business. Our first item is from Recreational Culture regarding a donation request from the U13AA Cranbrook East Kootenay Avalanche hockey team. Can I have staff provide an overview of the report? We have Trevor here for that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, so on or about the 16th of October 2025, Mayor and Council received a letter from the U13AA Cranbrook East Kootenay Avalanche Hockey Club as the host of the 2025-2026 Provincial Championships. They have requested a donation from Council. Specifically, they were requesting 10 hours of ice and use of the warm viewing room at the Memorial Arena for the duration of that tournament, coming to a total of $2,798.34. As council can see in the report, a quick list of other sporting events that have requested donations, some receiving, some not receiving, and just staff are working on a process, hopefully joining up with Welcome Cranbrook or Visit Cranbrook to help come with a solid plan so that decisions like this are met with a procedure, so to make council decisions a lot easier.
Staff is requesting a decision to council. Can I please have a mover and a seconder for option 1, 2, or 3? Councilor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move option 2, approve the request, and that's donation request for the amount of $1,307.98, and that's the Memorial Warm Viewing cost.
Seconder. Councilor Blissett. Discussion. Councilor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. So I really appreciate that staff are working on maybe a new approach to these asks. And I think anytime we can partner with Visit Cranbrook, that's a good thing. Our council contingency policy and procedure does refer to $500 as our suggested amount. As we can see from the list of items that have been approved, well, some of those items are definitely above $500. So our policy says we're to revisit it every 4 years. So it was, the last date on it is 2023. So that would be 2027. If we have time, I think we might want to move that up a little bit. Like $500 given cost is probably pretty low at this point. And I know it is sometimes challenging for groups to understand like why we can't just do in-kind donations. But as is noted in our policy, all of these requests do come with a cost. And so that's why we have our council contingency policy, because then that is where the funds come from. So I think in this case, you know, this is a reasonable way to support this event. And it is important to note that this is a regional hockey team. So there's 17 members on the team. 6 are noted as residents of the city of Cranbrook and 11 are from other communities. So I think it's valuable for us to support this event. We're glad to welcome these people to our community. We appreciate that this team practices here in Cranbrook and, you know, makes uses of our stores and services while they're here. But I certainly hope the organizers of the tournament will also reach out to the other communities in the surrounding area who also have players on this team to also support this tournament because it is a regional hockey team.
Oh, thank you for that. Councillor Teske.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. What I didn't see in the report is what we have left in our council contingency. We're about a month left in the year.
Councillor Stetsky through Mayor Price. I don't have that number with me tonight. I don't have that number with me. I believe there's enough in there and then some, but I don't have the exact number.
Further, Councillor Papa.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I agree. I think that we need to bring up the contingency policy again for the reasons Councillor Ray stated. But also, I think there's language in there that says contingency money can go towards an event, an activity, a purpose where all of a sudden, hey, we won the rights to do a tournament or an event and we have 2 weeks to make it happen and we haven't done enough time to fundraise for it. I think that's something similar to that. So, and in a lot of these circumstances, I mean, between now and March, that our policy may not apply because there's time to start doing some fundraising. So let's look at the policy and maybe change it to respond to this rather than to say no to these requests.
Thank you. Further? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Next item is from Corporate Services regarding BC Housing Report and requests to give agent authorization to the Fresh Start Collaborative Society. Can I please have staff provide a brief overview of the report? Marcel, welcome.
Welcome, Mayor and Council. So tonight's report is kind of a follow-up from our last council meeting, where there was some information about some of the challenges we're looking at going into the winter season, and it had been asked that I provide some numbers for what BC Housing has provided last year, what they're working on in Cranbrook. So you will find attached to this report the numbers that I got from BC Housing, and there was an increase, you'll notice, at Travelodge, because that report said 17 beds. It's since been up to 20 beds. And just if there's any questions about that, that can be answered afterwards. And then the following part is simply, again, following up with that report, that we're recognizing that there is a gap in our service abilities on the north end side of town. And just wanting as a community to come up with some creative ideas and proposing again the placement of the 2 trailers up at Common Ground that could allow us to expand capacity to provide services in that area of town, which has the added benefit of helping the people that are living on that side of town to meet their daily needs without having to travel all the way over to 2nd Street North. And it also helps the community in not having a congregation a congregation of people down in that area seeking services, which then close at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and these folks will be staying downtown for much of the evening. So the report, we had talked to planning about what would be needed to place these stationary trailers up at Common Ground in comparison to mobile trailers on wheels that could be moved out. They have come back, the report includes some of the things that we would have to do. And this is a request for a fresh start to be given agent authority to apply for the building permit to move forward with this project. Thanks.
Thanks, Marcel. Can I get a motion that council receive the requested staff report on BC Housing funded units, and further, the council provide agent authorization to Fresh Start Collaborative Society to apply for a temporary building permit for placement of 2 structures on city property at Moyer Park, known as Common Ground. The application to be for a permit for the date issued until no later than March 31st, 2027, unless otherwise requested by Fresh Start Collaborative Society and approved by council. The mover, please. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Bassett. Discussion. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Graham.
Yeah, so can you tell us a bit about Fresh Start Society, Collaborative Society? Like who are they? Are they actually a nonprofit registered society?
Councillor Stetsky through to the mayor. And yes, Fresh Start was actually created out of the mayor's task force. So we needed a entity who could carry out some of the initiatives that we put forward and also to apply for different types of grants. So they are non-registered charity. They have a board of directors and they don't, but they work to collaborate with the community. So they're not necessarily fulfilling anything on their own. What they do is bring all the other nonprofits together to work on projects. So they would apply for this building permit, but then collaborate with all the other agencies in fulfilling the outreach that would happen within them. I'm not sure if there's anything else you wanted to know about Fresh Start itself.
Councillor Stetsky.
A quick follow-up, if I might. So if there are any issues, who does the city go to deal with those issues?
Absolutely Fresh Start, yeah.
Yeah, but so the chair, there's a board with a chair.
The chair is Pastor Ron Short, Jamie Jenkins from East Kootenay Addictions, myself is on that board. There's also Anchors and the Food Bank, and so all the key partners would be involved in this initiative, sit on the board.
Councillor Graham, then Councillor Ray.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple quick questions here with how can, and maybe the CAO can answer this one, how can a group apply for a building permit on a piece of property that they don't lease, or do they have it on there? Is it leased to Fresh Start now? How does that work?
So that's the purpose of this report, Councillor Graham, through the mayor, is it's city-owned land, so the agent authorization allows them to apply for the permit on city-owned land. Because if the city doesn't grant them agent authorization, they have no, as you just described, no authority to do so.
Okay, perfect. And I guess the other couple of concerns I have is the fact that we were told that the best spot for a shelter was downtown because where all the services are, and now we're building and moving services out to the fringes. I don't see the merit in that. I also would like to know how we are doing with enforcing our bylaws, and will we be enforcing our bylaws where the tents come down? I think that is a key component to this, but I do not think we should be moving services to the fringes of the community when we were told that the core is where the services need to be when they applied to put the shelter where it is. I guess the question is why are we working towards this, and are we going to make sure that the tents come down every day as per our bylaw?
So it's the enforcement of the bylaw is taking place in all the high visibility areas of town, and the area, some of the areas like this are receiving less enforcement, so to speak. Marcel, I'm not sure if you're ready to speak on, the types of clients that are going to the shelter downtown and the number of folks in there and the reason why we need other alternatives out there.
Absolutely, Councillor Graham, through to the mayor. The shelter is full, and so that was the idea of building a shelter in that area, knowing that, hoping that there would be more of a revolving door within the shelter. But right now, because of a lack of housing throughout the community or entry-level housing throughout the community, the shelter is full, and so when people need something and they're living in common ground on the northeast side of town, they are migrating down to the core and into that area of 2nd Street. If it's cold and if there's no food up at common ground and if there's no resources on that side of town, the likelihood is that they will stay on 2nd Street North and in the core, more of the downtown area, seeking warmth and seeking services. We see this happening already. So it's unfortunate that there isn't enough services at that area of town, or that they're not open in the evenings. And all we're trying to do is encourage people to stay closer to their sheltering sites, still be able to meet their daily needs, and keep the downtown the way it is currently.
Just a quick supplemental. And this doesn't reflect on you. This reflects on BC Housing telling us that shelter would be adequate. For years, they told us that. And that is my biggest rub. It's not about you or what we're trying to accomplish. It's the fact that we were told that this shelter would be big enough. And when we raised flags, I raised flags for 2 years straight as they had the opportunity to maybe do something different. So that is one of my biggest rubs with this whole thing, is when we're told, yes, it's big enough, and it's not.
Thank you. Councillor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for this report. You know, in terms of the City of Cranbrook's approach to these challenging social issues, we've really taken a multifaceted approach, and I think we're seeing the positive results in that. It has taken some time to get some traction, but we are getting that positive traction. And I believe we're seeing those positive results because we have the dual approach of compassion and also community safety and well-being. So moving both of those forward at the same time. And if we had a magic wand that we could solve these issues, we would, but we don't. And so we're managing and mitigating. And that's what we're doing. And I see this strategy as being consistent with that. We're meeting people where they're at. So there are some people who are living on common ground, and there's some very basic services there. And as we've said, yeah, there's not enough room for everybody in the shelter, and not everyone may choose to be in the shelter. So for myself, I really see the value in this approach. We are trying to support people to stay alive and to take positive steps in their wellness. And I believe this will help these individuals and will also help the community. So I'll be voting in favor of this motion.
Councillor Pawa?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So first off, of course, thank you to the Fresh Start for all the work you're doing. It is having a positive impact in our community. Now on the negative side, well, it's not the negative, I guess it's a question. Reference was made to the bylaw. And when we were looking at the structuring of the bylaw, we looked at what the courts were allowing and not allowing in terms of when does our actions as a city, not Fresh Start, but as a city, determine that we're now responsible for that encampment, legally responsible. We have to provide generators and washrooms and all the other amenities that we're now the responsible entity for an encampment. And we've seen that throughout municipalities throughout Canada, where the city then has to be the operator and maintenance and everything of these encampments. And our bylaw reflected the middle area where we can still do some things, but we're not the city responsible for that tent or the creation of an encampment. So my question, and maybe it's for our CAO, if we start doing temporary use permits, building permits and structures that are not on wheels, which is what we're talking about, does that cross the line with the courts where now this is considered an encampment? And the second part is, and then because we're allowing those permits for these trailers to be placed and blocked on the site, are we going to be considered the legal entity responsible for the ongoing operation and even further enhancement of that common ground to provide even more and more and more amenities and facilities? If either of those is the case, or if we don't know an answer to that, I'm unfortunately not going to be able to support that.
So, Councillor Papa, through the mayor, you've said a lot. If I could just break it apart a little bit, just to be clear, what all council is being asked to do tonight is to provide agent authorization in order for Fresh Start to apply. You're not approving the permit tonight. It's simply agent authorization in order for them to apply. And what they'd be applying for is these two ATCO structures to be used on the site. When this was originally brought forward, the concept was if they could just have a trailer on the back of a vehicle, it would pull in and leave. And the idea is when these different organizations are servicing a vulnerable population up there, they're not meeting with them out in the elements, in the rain, in the snow, in the freezing, in the hot sunny day. There's a structure, or alternatively in the cab of the pickup truck. So they're not for lodging, they're not for anything other than a place to interact with folks, no overnight accommodation, no drug use, all that stuff. Like rather than meeting outside or in the cab of the vehicle kind of a space, that's it. That's what they're looking for. In regards to all the other points about encampments and whatnot, like there's a lot of rules in the courts around the homeless population and encampments. And so encampments exist in cities across Canada, throughout the States and actually around the world. And there's no hard and fast rules. I think Marcel said it best when she first started here that, if we could find a city that was doing the right thing, we would just do that, but nobody is. So we're always trying to do the least wrong thing. And right now it's a lot of gray. In the courts say, what you can and can't do with homeless folks when the shelters are full, and our shelters are full. So that limits what the city can and can't do around the bylaw, but we still have that powerful tool where we have those high visibility areas in town where we don't want the camp set up, like behind McDonald's and along Ridgeview, behind Dairy Queen, all those high visibility, really problematic sites by the schools, by the creeks. We can take the structures down for the day. We can require them down for the day, but we have to allow them to put them back up at night because you have to be allowed to live. The courts also then sway a little as you get closer into winter around our power for that and what you're doing to a human being in cold, inclement weather. So we have to balance a lot of gray. But in terms of the encampment and when it becomes a city responsibility or not, there's no sanctioned encampment in Cranbrook. It's simply where we do and don't apply the bylaw across town as these encampments show up. We are not allowing any encampments anywhere. They exist all over, and we're applying the bylaw more stringently in some areas than others, and that's it.
So thank you. So should we approve this tonight to allow Fresh Start to make the application? I think I'd like to hear a little more of what the courts are allowing and not allowing about what constitutes an encampment, where the local government then becomes the owner. We hear of Moccasin Flats in Prince George and other challenges where it's the city taxpayer, it's the city staff that are now responsible for it because there was a line that the local government crossed and now it becomes into the city's responsibility. And Councillor Steskey and I, a couple of EBCMs ago, were at the BC Human Rights Commission, and Councillor Steskey asked some really good questions that I didn't get a chance to ask, and they're watching as well. So we're being watched, and we need to follow the guidance of the courts so we don't become the owner-operator of an encampment. And I'd like to have that further discussion should we pass this tonight and it comes back as a application for temporary use.
So Councillor Popoff, just so you're aware, because this is such a I just call it a gray area across communities across Canada, especially around, BC is where the case law that applies to us mostly, but it's quite similar across Canada. We are actively working on this right now between the police, fire, bylaw, and the city, because as you've raised some concerns, we have other concerns as well. And so this is a very, very active file, and there is no clear direction at this point that I can provide. I can just say, we are actively working on it right now.
Yeah, I think too, we need to realize that this probably gives the city some form of control without ownership. The city is not moving people up to common ground. That is a public space. They're allowed to occupy a public space if there's not enough housing in the community for them. That is the case. I certainly agree with Councillor Graham. We were promised something that would satisfy the needs of our community. It's undersized. That's a fact. That's the way it is. So now we have to deal. It's up to us to deal with that through Common Ground, which is a nonprofit. So they're really not directly connected to the city. That gives the city, they get a little buffer from the city having to take responsibility. And as we heard earlier from Marcel, Common Ground is represented by pretty much all the agencies that deal on the day-to-day basis with people with these types of challenges. So they're in place there. And they're the ones that are going to recommend that they go up to Common Ground, not the city of Cranbrook. And I think certainly for purposes of control, that at least gives us a form of control where we can make the move according to our bylaw. If we do start to see something happening in town here on the berm, we could move them. And they do have a place to go where there is some form of, I would say, support for them there. And that's all this is support. Those are support structures only. They're not sleeping in them. It's not accommodation. So, I think this is the best fix for the certainly this winter circumstance we got. I think you also got to remember that there's a fair percentage of the unhoused out there that do not want to be in a shelter. They want to be left alone, and they want to be living rough, so to speak. And so this meets their needs as well. Thank you. Anything further, Council?
May I just add one thing, we are actively working with another service provider as well, so that these trailers are only needed for the shortest amount of time possible. It's just that we're not there yet. And so to have something in place to get us through some of the coldest months would be nice. But so council knows we are actively working on a different plan.
Thank you, Marcel. Nothing further, Council. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? 2 opposed? Yeah. Okay, so that motion is carried. We have 2 opposed. Councillor Graham and Councillor Popoff are opposed.
Thank you.
The next item is from Engineering Development Services regarding a letter to the province in regard to Bill M216, Professional Reliance Act. Can I please have staff provide a brief overview of the report? And we have Curtis here for that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. A little bit different of a report from Engineering and Development Services tonight than we usually see. Last week, the Provincial Legislative Assembly passed the second reading of Bill M216, the Professional Reliance Act. We are requesting that a letter of opposition be sent to the Select Standing Committee on Private Bills and Private Members' Bills, the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs, the Minister of State, our MLA, and the George Anderson, the MLA that supported and brought forward this bill. The bill is to require local governments to not, the bill is to require local governments to accept completed professional reports without questioning them, reviewing them. If they're incomplete, we can send them back. But if they're complete and being stamped, we need to rely on them. The concern with that is we review everything right now internally and send comments back. We review professionals' work throughout the infrastructure building of subdivisions, things of that nature. With that, with the complication or the details of our bylaws, I've never seen a professional drawing for subdivision or their works and services come back without something that's minor or incorrect. Usually we would get a hold of whoever the professional is and ask them to correct it, and it's not an issue. It's not to say that professionals can't do a good job. It's a second check to make sure that it meets the needs of the city of Cranbrook. It aligns with our plans, our bylaws, whether it's our growth plans or master plans, where they're very details, the very nuanced details of, say, the subdivision development servicing bylaw. So with the staffer asking that we oppose it, and we've seen in the past in Cranbrook where lack of oversight from city staff of professionals has taken us with poor infrastructure works in certain developments and subdivisions. We've ended up in numerous legal issues because of this. And that's the biggest reason why we're hoping that council will be behind us and not supporting in having this letter of not support going forward, is we don't believe it's in the best interest of the city of Cranbrook.
Thank you, Curtis. Can I get a motion that council authorize the mayor to send the attached letter of opposition to Bill M216, Professional Reliance Act, to the Select Standing Committee on Private Bills and Private Member Bills of the Provincial Legislature Assembly, Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs Christine Boyle, Minister of State Brittany Anderson, Pete Davis, MLA for Kootenay Rockies, and George Anderson, MLA for Nanaimo Lancefield. Mover, please. Councillor Ray, Councillor Popoff. Discussion. Let's start with Councillor Popoff. Councillor Graham.
Thank you. I fully support this. When we write this letter, signature of the mayor, Curtis, can you give some examples of why what we've experienced here with our development and lack of oversight in previous development projects that has cost the city lots of additional work and also cost to the taxpayer to fix and bring it back up to city standards? I think we have some really good examples. And I learned the term proctor when we were going through one of them. So I would really encourage you to use some real life examples and why we actually put in those second check mechanisms so that these developments don't happen again.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
Yeah, thank you. On one hand, I can see the merit of what is being proposed, but on the other hand, I think it becomes a move to subvert city bylaws. And maybe the provinces, we're seeing them slowly take more and more autonomy away from the city or cities in general throughout the province. So it's like, here's this little part. And then, while our city bylaws don't necessarily match what the engineers signed off on, then the provinces are being like, well, you know what, we're just going to make one universal bylaw for subdivision. Here it is. So I think that's a slippery slope that we're seeing laid out in front of us. So definitely in support of writing a letter. The one question I would have is, on the letter, could we have the mayor and all of council sign it? And I think it shows that if it passes unanimously, but if it shows that, it's a full council behind it. It might have been a split council on the vote or something. I think there might be a little more weight with all of council signing the letter, would be my one
Certainly.
thing.
Councillor Ray.
I wonder if we might consider a friendly amendment to the motion to add Steve Morissette, Parliamentary Secretary for Rural Development. We've met with MLA Morissette, and he is from the Kootenays, and it might just be an additional voice at the table. And he's definitely expressed his interest in supporting the city of Cranbrook. So I wonder, was I the mover? If I was the mover, I accept that friendly amendment. I don't know if the seconder would as well.
Mover.
You are.
Seconder. Good. Good stuff. Thank you. Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, I'll certainly support this as well. I guess when you're looking at it, when you're not familiar with how municipal government actually works, you think, well, this is going to be great because it'll save staff time. They won't have to do all that extra detailed work. But when you look below the surface, ultimately, it can cost staff more time and the city a lot of issues. So definitely support it.
Thank you. Further? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Moving into administrative updates. First update item is from Engineering Development Services regarding the Phillips Reservoir UV disinfection facility. And we have Curtis on hand to give us an update on this.
Now can we hear me? Awesome. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to give Council a little bit of a snapshot of what's been happening with the Phillips Reservoir UV disinfection facility project. The project, we've been working most of the summer and fall with the project team. So our consultants, Urban Systems, and the contractor, we procured Kiewit. We've gone through multiple different phases of design or options on the project to try and create something that fits the needs of the city and also within our budgets. So something that's a terminology of how we've procured the work of a validation report. So that's something that is going to be coming to council in the new year. We're still in the weeds of finalizing that to present to you. So the nuts and bolts of that report really is to provide an overview of all the design decisions that were made, how we plan to build the facility, what the final target construction budget is, as well as the final schedule. And then that report forms the base terms of what will be the final construction contract. Through the iterations and where we're seeing the project go, the latest budget, which keeps changing every day, is roughly around $14.5 million to build the facility. So that is more than our grant funding. We've done a lot of work to try and get that lower, and we're still working through that. So hopefully that number is less than that when I bring the final validation report to Mayor and Council. Staff has been looking at different ways to potentially close that gap. So one of the best option, I think, from staff's perspective would be to look at potentially redirecting what used to be called our gas tax funding, which was the Canada Community Building Fund, and most recently our government just announced that it's now called the Building Community Strong Fund. So it's had a few different names. The city gets currently roughly $950,000 a year from that fund that is distributed amongst our annual capital program, so roads, water, sewer, and storm. Redirecting that funding to this project would still maintain a balanced program for our infrastructure. It does reduce what we're doing by a bit in our regular capital program, but this facility is a core infrastructure component to our system. So we're still tackling our priority one infrastructure, and this facility will replace some of the large header main that's right at the reservoir. So we're replacing some of that old aging infrastructure as well. What else was I going to? So one of the major drivers of the costs of this project is in actually the hard materials. So as you see in the report, example is the biggest one is the cost of steel. It keeps fluctuating up and down, and as we've been going through this process, we've seen 3 different variations in the pricing on that. Most recently, we got the lowest rate we've seen in quite some time on steel, and it's anticipated to go up. So that is one of the drivers of bringing this forward. See if council was comfortable with staff pre-purchasing some of those major materials that are subject to the fluctuation. By delaying purchasing these materials, even by a few months, could swing project costs in the neighborhood of $1.5 to $2 million. Just based on project schedule, the actual costs of the materials, and just where the markets are trending. So that's one of the reasons why bringing this admin update to you tonight. In the admin update is a little bit of a snapshot of what the facility is going to be looking like. This has been stripped down to basically the basics to operate a UV facility, and we'll get into that a little bit more in the new year. So the major things we're looking at pre-purchasing is the actual UV reactors themselves. The UV reactors are about $1.2 million of the actual project just in the reactors themselves. And then the other items is the process piping and underslab piping, which is really susceptible to the steel pricing, and the prefabricated steel building structure. And I'll leave the floor open to any questions.
Thank you, Curtis. Good report. Anything, comments? Councillor Stetsky, sorry.
And thank you. Can you just share with the people of Cranbrook why we need to spend $12.5 million on this UV disinfection facility when we've been drinking the water from there for years without it?
So through the mayor to Councillor Stetsky. So currently right now, the city of Cranbrook's primary treatment is a single disinfection. So that is using chlorine to disinfect the water. Our current facility uses chlorine gas that is then injected into the water. So it is quite a dangerous process for our operators at the facility, as chlorine gas is quite difficult to deal with. And as well is single treatment doesn't meet the provincial's drinking water regulations of having a dual barrier treatment. So the new facility will provide UV disinfection with the secondary disinfection of chlorine, which will then be held throughout the system. So some of the benefits of that too is that we'll be able to use less chlorine because the primary disinfection is the UV. And then in the new facility, it will be a much safer process for our operators and staff in the form of just on-site storage of liquid chlorine, which is way less volatile and dangerous to use.
Thank you. So might it prevent something like boil water advisory like we went through last week? Or is that a different issue?
It's through the mayor to Councillor Stetsky, so it would definitely have reduced the risk of that happening. I can't say that it wouldn't have happened. It just depends on sometimes the circumstances of things that happen when we're the operators are maintaining the system. So it would have reduced the risk of that happening for sure.
And Curtis, has the province not strongly recommended or ordered the city of Cranbrook to come up with an alternative disinfection system than we're currently using?
So, Mayor Price, so the province has at this point accepted our application to defer building a water treatment plant. So there is a very stringent guidelines around when you can have to build a water treatment plant versus they will allow us to defer. We are in a really good position in how our system operates and functions, that they are in favor and they have accepted our treatment deferral application subject to us building this facility. If we don't build this facility, there could be a time in the very near future where they order us to build a treatment plant, which is going to be well over $50 million.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stetsky, back to Councillor Sim. We'll go to Councillor Ray.
Yeah, thank you. Last question. So if council decides not to invest the Building Communities Strong Fund into this project, where else might that money come from? I don't know whether we need our CFO speak to that or whether you can.
Through the mayor to Councillor Stetsky. So there definitely could be other options. Charlotte can add to this if I miss something. So one of the options is definitely increasing the utility funds to pay for that in terms of paying back additional borrowing. And then Charlotte might be able to add where some extra options there are.
Councillor Stetsky, through Mayor Price, it would be an alternative to the grant, which would be the road dedicated tax, the water component of that. So, which all feeds into the same program anyway. So, yeah, not a lot of options, different pools perhaps, but in essence, the same outcome.
Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to thank our management team for taking this proactive approach for early procurement for these key components of the project. I think that's what we have to do in the current climate, knowing the cost escalations we've seen. So I really appreciate this proactive approach and fully support it.
Yeah, and I just want to echo that as well. Thank you for the being so diligent on going after funding. There was no funding available for this a few years ago. We've been trying and trying, and I think we're almost at a point that if we didn't get the funding, we were going to have to go ahead with the full cost of this project, and so that's borne another $16-17 million. So thank you very much to staff and for all the hard work they did on getting the funding for this. Yeah, Charlotte.
Thank you, Mayor Price. Just another comment on Councillor Stetsky's question. The reason for selecting the grant funding is because it is that funding is available to cover projects both in the general fund or in the general fund, the water and the sewer. Whereas if we were to take the money out of the water or the water fund, that would leave a lot less in the water fund, which is an area we're already struggling with for our annual program. So this makes more sense because it is coming from a pool that has more flexibility than if we were to take it directly from the fund. If that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks for that, Charlotte. Curtis, great. Up next is from Corporate Services regarding Cranbrook's public safety evolution. Can I have staff speak to this?
So Mayor Price, I'll speak to this one.
Okay.
So I'm going to speak to it because I'm representing kind of a really broad effort across the corporation. So this homelessness, opioid crisis, mental health, petty crime, all of these things are affecting communities, kind of like what we talked about earlier, which is specifically around homelessness, but the crime component as well. It's affecting communities everywhere, you know, across Canada, in the States, all around the world, actually. And if you looked at a graph, it almost looks like a hockey stick. Things were bumping along pretty good. And all of a sudden, we've noticed these sharp increases in visible homelessness, in petty crime, in drug use, in mental health issues, impacts on first responders, impact on the communities. And so communities everywhere are struggling. And we get a lot of questions here about what is Cranbrook doing about it? And these aren't municipal jurisdictions other than, you know, working with the RCMP under the crime and some of the bylaw. So we've worked together on trying to create these collaborative programs in town. But if we leave aside all of the things that are not related to the crime side and focus on the public safety side, that's where the community is most concerned. And that's what came out in our public survey last year when we talked about budget. And then we reflected that in the new public survey where we went out and talked about what should be the strategic priorities for the RCMP. And so there's just been a lot of conversation around what is Cranbrook doing? What is council doing? And over the past few years, council has supported increases in taxes that have resulted in more resources going to the RCMP in a number of forms. And so we've changed bylaws. We've changed the way we do business with bylaw services. We've been actively working with provincial and federal ministries and going to Victoria, going to Vancouver, meeting with ministers, having them come here. Like, there's been a lot of work done, but we always kind of try to stitch together these stories. So what I've had the team do is we've pulled together all of that information in a nice, succinct piece that can then be shared. And it's too large for a media release. But what I wanted to do for tonight's effort meeting was to simply say, this document is now created and we've put it on the council agenda. So now it is a public document, so it can be shared, so you can have a PDF of it. And if someone says, what's Cranbrook doing about public safety? What's council doing? You can simply share this document and it tells the story much better than I can or someone else can when you're being pushed into a corner about those questions. So that's the purpose of this document. And it is now, as of tonight, a public document to share.
Thank you, Mark. And you know, to anybody that's concerned or interested, you know, in the situation that's going on in Cranbrook, I urge you to go online, go into our website and look at this document. It's very well laid out, and I would think it has the answer to most of the questions you would have regarding the city's homelessness situation and the public safety. Next up is, hang on. Correspondence. We have 3 items for correspondence tonight. We have, you want to receive for information, potential motion, or refer to staff? Councillor Graham.
I would like to refer 12.3 to staff around the track and field training request. I think it's a good use of a facility indoor, and it's early in the morning. So I think maybe staff can work with them to find a way to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Papa.
Yes, thank you. 12.1, the Chamber of Commerce and learning more about the DCCs. I'd welcome us to, maybe as staff or even as the mayor, to welcome and encourage the chamber board and others to learn more about our DCC process and get engaged, and they may have some good recommendations. So maybe it might be a staff issue, CEO, but it may also be an opportunity for the mayor to reach out on Olive Branch.
Can be done, thank you. And then we've got 12.2 correspondence from Alan Nelson, Light Up Coordinator, Cranbrook's Lion Club dated November 10th, 2025 regarding donation of transit for Christmas light up. Does somebody want to make a motion on that? Councillor Bassett?
Yes, I'd like to move that we maintain our support for this as we have over the years.
Thank you. So that would include the motion would receive correspondence from Lyle Nelson, lineup coordinator, Cranbrook Lions Club, dated November 10th, 2025, regarding donation of transit for Christmas light up, and further that council approve the request to provide transit service to conduct the annual Christmas light up for seniors on Sunday, December 14th, 2025. And that's Councillor Bassett, seconder, Councillor Ray. Any further discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thanks, guys. And that brings us to Mayor and Councilors reports. Let's start with Councillor Stetsky.
Thank you. Just a reminder that this Saturday, November 29th, is the Santa Claus Christmas Parade. I guess we've got to be there at 5, but I think it starts at 5:30 officially. It's great to see that going. Also, just for information, since I'm on the Symphony of the Kootenai board, we've sold out 2 performances on that day in combination with Stages School of Dance for the performance of the Nutcracker. There might be 1 or 2 seats left for either the afternoon or the evening concerts, but that's great. And we've got information here, of course, on the transit seniors light up, which is great. And that's on December 14th, 6:45 to 6:30 or so till 8. And then the holiday train rolls into town on December 14th as well, starting about 7:45. So some really good events to look forward to.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bassett.
Yes, and Friday night is the late shopping night for the downtown business area. So hopefully people come out and support that. You vote with your dollars. So you should think about that.
Thank you. Councillor Ray.
Thank you very much. I was pleased to help represent Mayor and Council at a couple of events recently. So last Tuesday on the 18th, along with Councillor Stetsky and Councillor Peabody, attended an event at the Community Living BC Cranbrook office to unveil a beautiful piece of artwork by a Ktunaxa artist from Yakanuki and their new land acknowledgement statement. So that was a very heartfelt event, and very pleased to have attended that. And last Thursday, I represented Mayor and Council at the kickoff for the Salvation Army Kettle campaign, and really appreciate the crucial services that the Salvation Army provides in our community to support folks who are part of our vulnerable population. So if you have an opportunity to give to the Kettle campaign, please consider that. And they are also looking for volunteers. And of course, Mayor and Council are taking a day to volunteer at one of the kettles as well.
Thank you. Councillor Papa.
Yes, thank you. I have a question to our CEO. Is there an update you can provide us very briefly on where we're at with the Baker Street and 10th Avenue for temporary 4-way stop? Maybe Curtis? There's Curtis. It's kind of waning in Facebook now, but there is occasionally some pro and cons on it. So where are we at, Curtis?
Councillor Popoff through the mayor. I don't have anything new to report at this time. I'm still waiting for the traffic study to come back from the consultant that we've hired. I expect to have it before the end of the year.
Thank you. Should we decide to go back to a new and improved traffic pedestrian lighting system, what would that cost? Because I believe we're going to have to dig up the streets and redo all the other components underground as well as above. Should we go that way?
So Councillor Popoff through the mayor, the design for that alone is about 70,000 if we choose to go to something more elaborate. So that is a capital budget request that would be coming to council. That hasn't been approved by council.
But beyond beyond the study, what would the actual capital cost for the dig up, rebuild, and have functional pedestrian lights and traffic signal lights on that intersection? Do we have a dollar value for that? How many
Councillor-
zeros?
Pop off through the mayor. The latest numbers I have for a new signalized intersection would be the numbers from the DCC bylaw work we've started later in the fall. Those estimates are around $600,000 for a signalized intersection with all new bases, wiring,
Yes.
the whole brand new intersection. I don't know if that would be accurate for this work or not with some of the infrastructure already installed, if we could try and use some of the conduit in the ground or not, but it's something we'd have to work out depending on the design and how the intersection would look if we redesigned it.
Perfect. Thank you. I was asking about the update. Thank you.
Councillor Graham.
Yeah, thank you. I just have something that was brought up and just wanted to forward it on here. And that's around the, with the province, provincial building code and national building code allowing for a single egress building. And I'm just wondering if Cranbrook is working on that. Do we allow single egress buildings? I know that it can affect design build, and I know that there was one person that was saying that if they had a single egress building allowed, they could add more rooms or different design configurations. So are we working on that, or do we allow it, or it's in the code so it's good to go?
Councillor Graham through the mayor. So we've had lengthy discussions with the Engineering Development Services Department and Emergency and Fire Services. With our current emergency and services staffing level, equipment level, apparatus level, we are not able to permit single stair egresses within the city of Cranbrook without substantial upgrades and budget to our emergency and fire services department. Multiple ladder trucks, multiple staffing. It is quite substantial. There's only a couple of municipalities that Fire Chief Driver mentioned that are actually able to provide this level of service, and they're at the Lower Mainland. Being the city of Surrey was one of them, potentially in the city of Vancouver.
Thank you, Curtis. Further? No. I have nothing more to add. And with that, I'll get a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Blissett, Councillor Ray, all in favor, opposed, that's carried. Thank you so much, guys. Good meeting. Thank you.